Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place to work and play. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place I want to stay. Its far north gate and southern trails came Walker Boone and Kenton too. Kentucky, she is calling, a place of history. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place to work and play. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place I want to stay. I'm John Stevenson. June Guyman and I are glad to be back off our trip across Kentucky. We traveled some 42,000 miles gathering the history of Kentucky county by county and its tourism attractions. We hope you will appreciate the films of the history of Kentucky by your congressional districts as much as we appreciated the opportunity of traveling through Kentucky some 42,000 miles. Thank you. Now enjoy the history of Kentucky. At this time, let me introduce to you, to give you an overview of Kentucky history, Dr. Thomas Clark.
Dr. Clark, we want to thank you for being with us.
I'm happy to be with you.
What can you tell us? We have been to every county in Kentucky. We've collected the information about the history of each county. We've come to you, Mr. History, to help us close our documentation on Kentucky by telling us a little bit how Kentucky itself got formed.
Well, Kentucky had a bit of a nebulous beginning. This was a wide open, unexplored wilderness territory on this side of the mountains. You begin to see an opening of the door as early as the middle decades of the 18th century. By 1760, Kentucky was gradually coming into focus, and by 1770, it was pretty well explored by the long hunters that came in, and then of course that famous party, they were long hunters too, of Daniel Boone and John Finley, who came into this state. Now, contrary, I think, to popular belief, this was not a region unmarked by no trails or no landmarks. There were buffalo traces, Indian traces across the state. As you know, no major Indian tribe occupied this state. This was a borderland between the northern Indians, the Shawnees with all their associated tribes, and the southern Chickasaw, a group to the south. And there was a great deal of rivalry between them to claim this hunting ground. Now, Kentucky, you know, geographically is of a highly varied nature, highly sectionalized nature. This central cane land here, or what you know as the Bluegrass Plateau, was a very famous grazing ground. There were salt licks scattered around all over the state where animals congregated, and the skin trade, the Indian trade, was a fairly rich one that originated here. In the early records, you have stories of the long hunters pursuing both the fur trade and the skin trade, but the major emphasis was upon the skin trade itself. Then, of course, in the middle of the 18th century, the rivalry between the French and the British, and you began to having those land speculators or surveyors like Thomas Walker, Christopher Gist coming into the region, making those preliminary so-called surveys in quotation marks. From 1760 on, the British were in control of this territory. The British undertook to check population expansion in this direction in the proclamation of 1763, which they were unsuccessful in doing. After 1770, you had a population movement into this region with the establishment in 1774 and 75 of Harrodsburg, or Harrodstown, and Boonesboro, Logan's Fort, and then Bryan Station, Lexington Fort. We're standing right now almost on the ground where the Lexington Fort was located. From that time on, there was a great population movement into this region that you know as Kentucky, concentrated largely in this central bluegrass area, but population in time was to expand into other areas of the state.
What were the first counties in Kentucky?
Well, Kentucky County was the first one in 1776. that was simply a blanket. Well, I believe back of that there was Fincastle County, but Kentucky County was simply a blanket spread of Virginia authority into this western country. Then in 1780 they were created the first three counties, Lafayette, Fayette, Lincoln, and Jefferson counties. Fayette County covered all the area north of the Kentucky River. Lincoln County, the area east of Benson's Creek, and Jefferson County, south of the Kentucky River, and west and south of Benson's Creek. Benson Creek's mouth is just opposite, about where that office plaza is in Frankfort at the present time.
Okay. During the interview, we're standing on West Main Street, which is right across from the old Fayette County Courthouse. What is the significance of this area, Dr. Clark?
We're standing in a very historic spot here. Right here to my right, where this Radisson Hotel is located, is the site of the old Fort Lexington. It was built here on this town creek with trim cane all around it. They cleared the cane all around it, build a fort, and give them visibility, not to be surprised by a sneak Indian attack. Right to my right, on the corner of Main and Mill Street, is where the office of the True American stood. That was an anti-slavery paper published by Cassius M. Clay here in the very heart of Kentucky slavery, which that office was raided illegally so, in violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. It was packed up. Later on, the courts granted Cassius M. Clay restitution, and he collected damages for it. To my back is Cheapside. Cheapside has a long and romantic history. Here within 50 feet of where we are standing was the scene of the slave auctions, where slaves were sold out of this bluegrass region to the expanding cotton belt in the south. It's also the scene of the great court day markets in which the livestock trade was carried on. This place used to be crowded with horses, cows, sheep, every kind of dogs, everything that people had to trade come in on court day and gather around this spot. Two, it was a great political stumping ground for politicians. I could not tell you the speakers who have lifted their voice in seeking office in this square to our back. The building immediately behind us is the fifth courthouse to stand on this spot. The first one was constructed in 1788. They were either burned or torn down because they were antiquated. The fourth courthouse contained the wonderful piece of Kentucky artistry, Woman Triumphant, by the famous artist, just a moment, I'll think Joel Tanner Hart. The courthouse burned down and destroyed that wonderful piece of statuary. I had an forearm of that graceful figure, which I gave to the University of Kentucky. So far as I know, that's the only existing relic of that. Here were conducted trials, lawyers, a string of Kentucky famous lawyers, John Breckinridge, Caleb Wallace, George Nicholas, on down Henry Clay, on down through lawyers of the most famous of the Kentucky bars practiced in this courthouse across the street. That is one of its predecessors. Here it was, right after World War II, that the Army was called out, not the militia. The regular Army was called out to quell a lynch mob in the famous Leavitt trial, in which this square was seething with people with ropes and tar, threatening to lynch that Negro boy. The Army veterans brought from the battlefield of France stood off the mob, and the trial proceeded in an orderly way. It is also a square, a statuary of John Hunt Morgan's equestrian statue is over to our left. John Breckinridge's statue is here to our on Sheepside. This was the center of the business area of Lexington. Not only Lexington, but it was a kind of a commercial nerve center for all of eastern Kentucky and all of central Kentucky. Louisville, after 1820, became the major commercial city of the state.
Choosing a selection of the capital of the state, how was that done?
That's a pretty complicated issue. Of course, you would have thought they would have chosen one of the major towns in the state, like Lexington or Louisville or Danville, for instance, or Harrodsburg, but they didn't. They went to Frankfort for various reasons, and I'm not sure that I'm entirely right about all of them, but one of the reasons, it was located near the center of Kentucky population at the time. It also was located on the river, easy access by water. The people of Frankfort supplied some materials and support for the building of a capital, and like all things, everlastingly, including the observation of the Ten Commandments in Kentucky, there's some kind of political implication involved.
Okay. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, besides the immense amounts of knowledge that you possess? How did you get interested in history?
I came to Kentucky in 1928 without knowing a single soul in this state. I got off the train down here on September the 14th, 1928, with 25,000 Kentucky Republicans milling around. I had never seen a Republican who wasn't a postmaster until I rode in the seat from Ashland down here with Charlie Curtis, who was running for vice president on the Hoover ticket. I came here as a student at the University of Kentucky. I was a graduate of the University of Mississippi, and I started work on my master's thesis in the field of Kentucky history, writing on the subject of trade in slaves, livestock, and hemp between this area and the lower South. And I became very much interested in the history of the state from that. And there's scarcely a day gone by in the last 60 years that somewhere or other I haven't been involved in doing something about the history of the state.
We also understand that you've written 20-plus books. Can you tell us what some of the books are about?
Well, I've published a history of Kentucky, the Exploring Kentucky, which was used a long time in the schools. I published the Kentucky in the Rivers of America series, the Rampaging Frontier, Frontier America, the Emerging South, Fields, Petticoats, and Plows, Southern Country Editor, and I've just published The Greening of the South, which has to do with reforestation and conservation of the southern land.
We were talking earlier about the changes that have been made. And when we've interviewed other people, we've asked them what changes they've seen take place. Can you tell us a little bit about the changes you've observed since you've been in Kentucky?
In the state or in the county?
In the state.
Oh, yes. Phenomenal changes. Despite all of the discussion of the educational system and the low standing in many categories of educational effort, I've seen phenomenal changes in educational endeavor. I think I've seen, although I'm no longer in the classroom, I think a much better prepared student is coming to college and universities now than in the old days. I've seen the family farm virtually on the way to disappearance. Who would have thought in 1928 that the great tobacco industry in this state would be threatened as it has been? You would be very remiss not to observe that Kentucky has made phenomenal progress in breaking the barrier of isolation, in building its highway system, and going into every part of the state. In the Clements administration, that legislation from building farm-to-market roads, building the interstate highway system, and then, of course, supplemented by the toll road system in the state, has made marked changes in Kentucky. I've also seen Kentucky fail to meet its challenges, fail to come up with what it's possible for it to do. Kentucky is still a provincial agrarian state trying desperately to just kind of ease into the 21st century, very poorly prepared to do so.
What do you think about what John's doing?
I think it's very interesting indeed. To go into all 120 counties in this state is a monumental undertaking. And he's gathered up a contemporary vignette look at the state that 50 years from now, people will turn back to these tapes and see that old historian in Lexington and all these people around the courthouses in 119 other counties and say, good God, is that where we were at that time? No, I think it's creating a very nice, interesting, and useful historical document.
I just wanted to come over here for a second to heap a little praise. It's not necessary, but I'm going to do it for this gentleman, Dr. Thomas Clark, because not only did he teach there at the University of Kentucky when I went there to UK, and I had Dr. Charles Talbert for Kentucky history, but I used your book when I taught American history in high school and Kentucky history in high school. And it was a great deal of honor that I did so. You know, I look back over my history myself, and I had people like Mrs. Hinsdale for a history teacher in the 8th grade, and you remember those people that make a mark on your life. And Dr. Clark, you've made a mark on many people's lives here in Kentucky and across the United States and world, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You spoke of a very fine historian in Charlie Talbot. Charlie was very precise and exacting in his book on Benjamin Logan is an excellent book. He also had a very fine volume on the history of the later years of the University of Kentucky. He was an excellent teacher, as the people in northern Kentucky will tell you.
Absolutely. It's indeed a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, sir. It's nice being here with you, and good luck, John.
Thank you so much.
And good luck,
Thank you.
lady manager.
John Stevenson. June Guyman and I, along with Kentucky's historians, are proud to give you the history of the 7th Congressional District. Owensville, the county seat of Bath County. Bath County population, 10,161. The area square miles, 278. Ranking, 75th. Bath County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Bath County Courthouse, which is located in Owensville, Kentucky. To my left, we have a gentleman whose name is Tom Byron. Tom,
local historian.
Local historian. Tom, tell us a little bit about what you do here.
Oh, I'm in the advertising business in the area.
Okay.
And I'm president of the Chamber of Commerce and very interested in redeveloping Owensville. We have a project right now for some redevelopment, and I'm working on that real hard.
How did the county get its name?
From its many mineral springs. That's what we're famous for. Lots of springs, lots of them are mineral springs, and Bath came from that. And at one time we had up till the late 30s, starting back in early 1800s, we had a famous resort here called the Olympian Springs. Some 12 to 15 different mineral springs on this particular piece of property, which is located in the south part of the county near Olympia.
Okay. When was Bath County formed?
1811. Somewhere in there. Owensville, soon after, they formed it up here. The people met up here and formed Bath County. Mr. Menifee and Mr. Owens and another small group. Mr. Menifee, Richard Menifee, Menifee County, where I understand you're going next, is named for his son, who was a legislator. And Mr. Owens owned most of the property here. The story is that Mr. Menifee and Mr. Owens had a race to build the best house in the quickest amount of time. Whoever won, they would name the town after him, since they both had equal amount of property here. So Mr. Owens won, and behind us is the Owens House, and that's the house the town was named after. The house was started in 1811 and finished about 1814. Benjamin Latrobe, who designed part of the White House, was supposedly the architect for this house. As you're looking down on it, it's the part that's yellow and green, and also the bank part is a third of it. It's been sold off. It's been altered at the top there, as you can tell, but nevertheless the roof and the entire structure is all part of the Owens house, and so we like to call it the house that named a town. It has a very interesting history. Mr. Owens, and by the way, his name was Thomas Dye Owens. He also came from Baltimore, and he was an early legislator too, and was very well connected all over, and was a friend of Henry Clay, who he invited here. Mr. Clay also, father-in-law, owned the Olympian Springs, and so he was here quite often anyway. He was also here on occasion as a guest of Mr. Owens, and in 1826 Owens gave a grand ball in honor of Henry Clay. The governor was here. It was quite a number. So this house in Owensville is much older than the surrounding area, actually, and was a social area for Eastern Kentucky.
You were going to tell us something about the fire, or a fire that had taken place in this town?
This whole area that we're standing in front of has burned about twice. It was rebuilt last about 1890. The fire was 1893, so it took a while to build it back. So it was all built in the 1890s, mid-1890s. Most of the town's architecture downtown is Victorian, and I think it's a very charming town. The entire town, except for maybe about two exceptions, our new courthouse annex and this bank down here. The rest of the town is on what's known as the historic district. The entire downtown's on the historic district, and the Owens house is on the National Register. So it's a very old community. We're up here on a plateau, so there's not much room for growth, and it's stayed rather stagnant, but most people like it that way.
Okay. What was this county parceled off of?
Okay, most things were from Fayette County, I would imagine. You've learned that coming through the state, and then Montgomery, I think, came off Fayette County, and we were taken from there, from Montgomery. We used to be part of Montgomery, and then Menifee County was taken off the south end of the county later on.
How old is this courthouse?
This courthouse is one of the ones that was burned during the Civil War, although apparently, from what we understand, not on purpose. Federal troops were garrisoned in here. Confederates came. They left in a hurry, and as the legend goes, and it says it on the says in the history book, at any rate, they knocked a stove over, burned the place down. The first one sat in the middle of this street right here, so that you had a true courthouse square, apparently, originally. The second one they moved back where this one sits now, and the third one was put here. It wasn't that grand, however. This was remodeled about 1900, between 1901 and 1903. The column, it was brought out from the base, and the bell tower, this whole facade was put on it, making it look a little more grandiose than it did.
What is the population of the county?
Now that I don't know. It's about 9,000. We're 1,600 here in Owensville, and there are other communities too. Preston, Olympia, Bethel, Sharpsburg, and Salt Lick are all good-sized communities within the county. One of the things I didn't mention while we were talking about Colonel Owens is that what brought him to Bath County is his father invested, along with several others, in a tremendous amount of land here in the state. They own 5,000 or 6,000 acres, and they started a iron furnace, which is 3 miles from Owensville on 36, just past the intersection. And that's, I think, can be one of our big tourist attractions, because Owensville and this particular furnace was the first iron furnace west of the Alleghenies. I think that's very important. You were speaking of industry. Well, we don't really have that much now, but what created Owensville was actually Owens coming here, getting into this iron furnace down at the bottom of the hill, and then starting Owensville. That's how it all happened. I think we need to capitalize on that. We have a beautiful courthouse upstairs. We don't use the courtroom anymore, but it's rather historic looking. I think it could be restored to look like a courthouse at the turn of the century very easily, because all the things are still there. And we have the Owens house which has a magnificent 3-story spiral staircase down the end of a large, rather grand hall. And we have a beautiful, beautiful main street with lots of lovely homes that date back to 1830, 1840, and on up. And they're beautiful in the summer and the spring, and we have lots of dogwoods and lots of trees. And a town almost untouched, in some cases, by progress. So I think we need to capitalize on that.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us that I haven't asked you about?
Bath County does have part of Cave Run Lake, and this is the rest of the tourist industry that we eventually want to address, how to capitalize on Cave Run. It's quite a tourist attraction already. We're not capitalizing on it as I'd like to see, but it's a great place to fish, boat recreation, has lots of muskie in it, and it is known as one of the best places to come in the United States and fish for muskie. And it's a large lake that covers some 8 counties altogether.
Okay. Well, we both sincerely thank you for talking with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catlettsburg, the county seat of Boyd County. Boyd County population, 53,661. Area square miles, 161. Rank, 115. Boyd County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Boyd County Courthouse, which is located in Catlettsburg, Kentucky. With me we have 3 local residents. Would you please introduce yourself?
I'm Carolyn Hart Clay. I live in Catlettsburg.
Okay.
And I'm Bill Scott, a Boyd County Commissioner.
Okay.
And I'm Paul Purvis, Boyd County Judge Executive.
All right, thank you. Carolyn, what can you tell us about the formation of the county?
Well, the county was organized in 1860, and it was named for Lynn Boyd, who was born in Tennessee and came to Kentucky as a young man and became interested in politics. He served in the Kentucky legislature for 2 terms and then went on to Washington for 18 years in the House of Representatives. He became Speaker of the House and later was named Lieutenant Governor, but he died before he was inaugurated. Catlettsburg was formed from Greenup, Lawrence, and Carter counties and was in 1860. Catlettsburg was settled in 1849 by Horatio Catlett. The Catletts came to Catlettsburg in the early 1800s and were very prominent in the formation and development of the city of Catlettsburg. Horatio Catlett laid out plots for Catlettsburg, and the town was named for him. One important, we think that Catlettsburg was very important in the early history of this area. Being at the confluence of the Big Sandys and the Ohio rivers, it was the center for the timber trade, which was really the foundation of its financial growth. We have many historical spots in Catlettsburg, some of the old houses that were here during the period of Horatio Catlett. We have one, Beechmore Place, which they always claimed that one of the Catletts was buried under the back porch in that Beechmore Place.
Okay.
We point with pride to a marker in the courthouse lawn of Judge William M. Elliott. He was a judge of the Court of Appeals and was assassinated on the steps of the Capitol. He was also important in the Confederacy, and that the monument in the courthouse lawn was erected by his widow in memory of his great service to the state of Kentucky. We have another monument in town which we point with pride. The monument of DeSoto in the lower end of town. In 1544, DeSoto is supposed to have come through this area, and I asked a member, and it was erected by the Colonial Dames of America, and I asked one of the ladies why they chose this particular spot. She said, well, it is believed that this is where he first saw Kentucky.
What can you tell us about the courthouse, the age of it, a ballpark figure?
Well, I hate to say that we have made some research, and so far we found it's believed that the courthouse was established in the we'd say in the area of 1875, and Mr. Scott and I found a plaque on the courthouse this morning saying that they built the addition in 1850, but we still have another addition that's just more recently built. But Catlettsburg is a center. Catlettsburg is a county seat of Boyd County. And all the business of the county is transacted here in our city of Catlettsburg. And I want to say that the Catlettsburg is a town that has many fine churches, and our greatest assets are our people.
Okay, thank you. Bill, a question I wanted to ask you. We go into each county, and at one point we interview a certain official in the courthouse, and we've never had a chance to ask someone who's in a commissioner capacity what their role is. Could you tell us a little bit about what a commissioner does?
Okay, June, I'll try to summarize it for you. A lot of people call it a part-time job. We personally, I personally feel like it's just about a full-time job, working to support the family through other means. Like I work at Armco Steel Corporation, but you still have a 24-hour job and responsible to the people that much. We meet twice a month here in Boyd County, and that's regular meetings, and we sort of set policy for Judge Purvis here and the people that work for the county to operate on. They run the day-to-day operation of the county. But it is a very important job. We feel like operating the county budget and keeping up with the road department, the jail and the courthouse and repair and all the people that work for our organization.
Okay, thank you. Okay, a question we have is, what are the major industries of Boyd County?
Did you say where or what?
No, what are the major industries of Boyd County?
Of course, Boyd County has been very, very fortunate that we've had the plant and the executive offices of Ashland Oil Refining Company located here in our county, as well as Armco Steel Corporation, which started many, many years ago just as a small steel mill and now has developed into one of the top several in the nation. And Boyd County has been well blessed by having those two companies here, and I think basically that's where we have built, the biggest part of our economy. And, they refer to us as the gateway to Kentucky Highlands where coal meets iron. And I think that's a very fine little slogan, that we have. And it just says, basically a whole lot about Boyd County.
And if someone was coming through Boyd County, what would they need to see?
Well, there's so many little pamphlets out, describing Boyd County, and you'd be surprised, really, how many nice things that there is here. We got museums, we got the hills, we got the mountains, we got the river, we got the industry, we got parks. There's lots of things here. Hunting and fishing, is big things for us. And just recently, Boyd County joined with several other counties in the state, and we established that 6% tourism tax on hotel and motel reservations. And as a result of that, that's creating some funds for our tourism commission down here, and we have a very active one.
June, we're very proud people in Boyd County. We're very small in area, the county is. We're very close-knit throughout the county, and we would like a better quality of life for all of our people. I guess we have a lot, and we're very thankful for that, but we would like to have more work for our people and lower unemployment rate, just a better quality of life all the way around.
But Ashland is a very, very fine city, a very prosperous city. It's a second-class city. We want to keep it that way. When they came down the Ohio River and put in their rafts and boats or whatever they were traveling in, down around 15th or 16th Street there at the riverbank, and the first establishment here, Ashland, was called Pogue's Landing. And that was because of the families that pulled in there at that particular time. And there's still some of that relatives of the Pogue family is still right here in Ashland and in Boyd County.
Jackson, County seat of Breathitt County. Breathitt County population 16,496. Area square miles 495. Rank 11th. And Breathitt County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
To my right, we have a gentleman, O.H. Napier, who is a local historian and doing research, which we'll ask him a little more about later. O.H., what can you tell us about the formation of the county?
Breathitt County, it was formed in 1839, and it was formed from Estill and Clay and Perry County. Well, the hills and just the natural surroundings is the most beautiful thing around this town. You know, just to get out and you find your little path and go back up in the hills and sit around and just listen to the birds sing or whatever. You know, that's one good thing about this county.
Why did you decide to do the research you're doing?
Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, I started writing for the Jackson Times, and I just got interested in history, and I don't want it to die. Like my grandma, she sings these old ballad songs and stuff to them, and I just like to keep stuff in print like that so it'll stay alive. And I'm real interested in the history of Breathitt County because it was known world over about the bloody deeds and stuff, Bloody Breathitt back, and I just want to keep it alive.
Okay, when did the Honey Festival become a festival?
It started, I'd say, at least 5 or 6 years ago, but I'm not certain about the date. And we have a lot of great entertainers that come down. The Robinson family was here last year, and we got crowds, saw them down the streets, and their tents is all stretched, and you can just about find anything, you know, that's made, and they make little just crafts, books, homemade things, you know, chairs, rocking chairs, and it's like just anything you want to eat real good and stuff like that. You know, it's just a big festival. It lasts about 3 days on Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day, okay.
I just wanted to stop in for a brief second and say hello, and you mentioned the Robinson family singers. Of course, that was my sister, Mary Ruth Robinson, and my brother-in-law, Jackie Robinson, and their 5 children. And they entertain all over the United States, and we were very proud to have them come here. Of course, they're born and raised in Kentucky, and they have them come back here to Jackson and entertain here in Breathitt County and for the Honey Festival, and I hope that they'll come back and do so more often because we had a great time down here last year when we visited the area.
That'd be great.
The county seat was called Breathitt Town, but in 1845, shortly after the death of Andrew Jackson, the townspeople decided to call the county seat Breathitt Town. Breathitt County is one of Kentucky's larger counties. Actually, it's number 13 in size. It's located in the southeastern part of the state, in an area which is commonly called the Cumberland Plateau of the Appalachian Mountains. It was formed in 1839 from parts of 3 other counties, Clay County, Perry County, and Estill County. In 1839, the county seat was called Breathitt Town, but in 1845, shortly after the death of Andrew Jackson, the townspeople decided to change the name to Jackson in honor of Old Hickory. Jackson became a boom town after the railroad came and stopped here for 20 years. This picture shows Jackson during its heyday, shortly before a great fire occurred in 1913, which burned most of this section to the ground. This picture was taken in 1917 when quicksand, along with most of the upper Appalachian area, gave a lot of hardwoods for the war effort. In 1917, quicksand was said to be the largest mill of its kind in the world. As you can see here, the milling operations were quite extensive. Today, nothing remains except a University of Kentucky substation, which was given by the owners of this mill, Mobley and Robinson, after the milling was finished. Over 100 years ago, education in Breathitt County was very primitive, but a traveling preacher by the name of J.J. Dickey came to town one day, and a few years later, he spearheaded an effort to open a mountain college, and that college was named S.P. Lee's Institute. Today, we simply call it Lee's College, and it has been an inspiration for hundreds and thousands of mountain students. It's located in the heart of the mountains, and it continues to do a fine job for education. Even though Lee's College is a small college, throughout the years, from time to time, it has produced some great leaders. For example, here in Breathitt County, Marie R. Turner, who became very famous as a regional politician, attended Lee's College. And on a more national level, Carl D. Perkins once attended Lee's College. So you can see that the little college has given a great deal to the community.
I understand that one of the most political significant families in the Commonwealth of Kentucky came from Breathitt County here in Jackson. In fact, many of the family members still live here, and that was Marie Turner. What can you tell us about the Turner family and their importance in educational politics and democratic politics in Kentucky?
That's correct. The Turners were a very important family, and they remain very important in Breathitt County. Of course, Marie R. Turner and her husband Irvin Turner began as young educators, and from there they made names for themselves across the state. Marie Turner became superintendent shortly after her husband resigned in 1930, and for the next 35 or 40 years she was Breathitt County superintendent. And as you probably realize, in those days, education was the biggest industry in many counties, and this was no exception here in Breathitt County. While Mrs. Turner became superintendent, her husband Irvin became very interested in local politics. In fact, he ran for state senator and was elected. Later he became circuit judge of this region, all the while Mrs. Turner remained a superintendent. During her tenure, most of the mountain schools in Breathitt County were consolidated, and she was years ahead of most mountain counties in this effort. When she began, there were 105 one-room schools, and when she stopped, there were 8 consolidated schools in Breathitt County. Because the mountains were so remote, very few roads came to Breathitt County before the turn of the century. Because of this, the lumber industry was the only industry of any note, because it was easier for the materials to get to the market. This was done by floating them down the river. As the railroad came into Breathitt County, a few mines were opened up here and there, and eventually, of course, mining overtook lumbering as the main industry. In this picture, we see a later coal mine. You can see that it's kind of automated. We have tracks and things of this nature. In the early days, ponies were used. Hand tools such as picks and shovels proved to be the main things in the mine. Today, of course, strip mining has replaced deep mines, mostly here in Breathitt County. This is a portrait of John Breathitt, the namesake of this county. He served Kentucky as a governor from 1832 to 1834, dying just after 2 years in office. Of course, since Breathitt County was the next county formed after his death, the people of the state honored his memory by naming our county Breathitt County. Another connection we've had with the Breathitt family is the opening of Governor Ned Breathitt's campaign for governor in the early 60s, when he came to Breathitt County and opened up his campaign. So I guess it was fitting that since our county was named after one of his family members, that he came here to do his opening of his campaign in the early 1960s. The horse was a very important vehicle of transportation. Sometimes whole families could be found atop a single horse or mule. It was a very common thing for the woman to sit behind the man on the way to church, as you can see here. When most parts of Kentucky had long forgotten the log cabin, they were still common in the eastern part of the state, especially here in Breathitt County. Probably until 1940, 1945, log cabins were still fairly common. Here we see an old cabin scene shot near Buckhorn, Kentucky. It's a very rare scene because it shows the inside of a cabin taken about 1900. You'll notice the handmade furniture. There is a bed there in the corner. From the ceiling we can see potatoes hanging, and we can see the old mountaineers' clothes hanging on a peg near the bed there. This other picture shows a very classic scene. This is a log cabin taken near Athol in Breathitt County. It shows a wash day, and as you can see, the cabin wasn't very large, but it served as home to probably a large mountain family. As mentioned before, Quicksand became the center to Breathitt County's lumbering industry. In fact, it was more like a hub. From Quicksand in all directions radiated a small gauge railroad network. Here we can see one of the dinky trains, one of several owned by the Mobley Robinson Company. These dinky trains hauled the world's finest timber from the forests of Breathitt County into the mills at Quicksand, where they were cut and lumber was exported to all parts of the world. As we can see in this picture, Jackson looked more or less like a western town. And in fact, in 1920, when this picture was taken, it had kind of settled down. In early years, it had earned the nickname as Jackson, the capital of the feud lands. This was because several feuds took place just after the Civil War, which gave Breathitt County a very infamous reputation throughout not only Kentucky but the world. We can read about Breathitt County feuds in the New York Times as well as the London Times, the land of the feuds. This is true because just after the Civil War, Breathitt County played host to probably as many as 10 different family feuds. Most of them were caused by incidents that occurred during the Civil War. However, the later ones were caused by economic factors. The most famous feud occurred in the early 1900s, between 1902 and 1903, when the Hargis family and the Markham family feuded, so to speak. However, we had other feuds. Captain Bill Strong is a very historical type figure. He played an important part in the feud just after the Civil War. We had feuds between the Littles and the Jets, the Deatons and the Callahans and the Jets, the Hargises, the Coxes, the Cockrells, several of our families, most all the prominent families at one time or other feuded. Captain Bill Strong, in my opinion, was probably the most famous feudist. He led a band of home guards during the Civil War, and it's said that he left over 100 widows after his actions. And of course, when the sons came back from the war, they took action. And finally in 1897, almost 35 years after the Civil War, old man Captain Bill Strong was assassinated himself. So he got what most feudists got, and that was a bullet from ambush. However, in the streets of Jackson itself, we've had many feud actions. We've had people assassinated from the courthouse itself. We've had people shot down. That period, of course, is long gone, but it's still remembered as the kind of time when the mountain people took the law into their own hands. In fact, in many cases, the elected officials were part of the feud itself. In the early days of lumbering, the men rode the rafts to mills at Frankfort and on down the river to Carrollton, but near the beginning of this century, Jackson got its own lumbering mills. In fact, the Swan Day mills at Jackson were very important mills. As you can see in this picture, it was a place where much lumber was cut and stored. This is South Jackson, right across the North Fork of the Kentucky River from Jackson proper. Like most mountain counties, Breathitt County is a very beautiful county. Its tall mountains and its shady valleys are very inviting for tourists. We have probably as much water here in the county as the average county in Kentucky. We have two forks of the Kentucky River, the Middle Fork and the North Fork. We have a very nice little lake called Pambo Lake, which is becoming famous in its own right for its fishing. Hunting is improving. We have the small game, of course, deer, squirrel, and rabbit.
Josephine Wheeler Back, Mrs. J. Everett Back, or Bach, and I was born and reared in Morgan County, Cannell City. It got its name from the Cannell coal that was mined there. It was the largest Cannell coal company in the world at that time, and shipped all over. The coal was shipped all over the world. And I was educated in the high school in Cannell City, and also in business school in Detroit, Michigan, and also in a business school in Washington, D.C. I was working with the Press Intelligence Division, direct from the White House, from President Roosevelt. And then this position opened up in Jackson, Kentucky, that after the doctor had done all he could for him there, he said to just come home and rest and do something. If you have to take the sledgehammer, beat up the sidewalk, get your mind off your condition. Maybe I can find later some sight in one eye. One was gone already. So politics was his talent. He loved people and he loved politics. So the office was open, the race rather, for state representative in Frankfort, Kentucky. So he served 3 terms in the House of Representatives, and then he served 1 term in the Senate. In the meantime, though, the position opened with the United States District Court. And through our good friend, Senator Albert W. Barkley and President Roosevelt, I received the appointment in 1935, right after we moved to Jackson. And we've lived here ever since. And I worked until 1972, when I retired. I was the only mother in the United States that had this honor, or this privilege, to administer the oath to a son who was going to practice in the United States courts. Then, of course, I retired, and since then, my husband died about 6 years ago, and he was almost 82 at that time. He was a wonderful person. He was very compassionate, and he did so much for Breathitt County, for the state of Kentucky, and for his country. Those were the things that he was so interested in. And so, in the meantime, while I worked in Washington, I did quite a bit of research on our family lineages. And since coming to Jackson, I organized, with the help of my aunt, Mrs. William Everett, back in Lexington, Kentucky, the Breathitt County Chapter Daughters of the American Revolution. And then later on, I organized the Children of the American Revolution, with 4 or 5 of my grandchildren as members of that society, and still have some, even have some of my great-grandchildren now in the CAR. And, of course, civic organizations I've been rather active in, and I've had a very full life and a very happy life with almost 60 years in marriage.
Grayson, the county seat of Carter County. Carter County population, 25,783. Area square miles, 407. Rank, 32nd. Carter County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Roy G., and I'm circuit clerk here in this county, and this is my wife, Dorothy. And the county was so named in 1838 for Colonel William Grayson Carter, state senator, 1834 to 38. And the 88th Kentucky county formed 32nd in size. Carter was created from the Greenup and Lawrence County territories, noted in early years for 5 iron furnaces, its clay products, industry developed in the 1800s. Carter Caves are a major source of the saltpeter during the War of 18 and 12, and has been an important tourist attraction since 1924, when the local Rotary Club bought the Carter Caves area and turned it over to the state.
What can you tell us about the age of the courthouse?
Well, the present courthouse was built in 1907, and the east wing was added on in 1952. With the initiation of the new court system, it was not capable of housing all of the new court system, the district court, and of course with circuit court already on the 3rd floor. And so there was a new addition added on, a new annex part to the back of the courthouse, and it's about 7 or 8 years old now.
Okay. we're trying to promote tourism for every county. Now, we know what's here, but for those who don't, what could you tell us about tourism?
We have the best. We're no doubt the Rose of Kentucky here in Carter County because we have State Park. We have many, many beautiful rivers here, Tiger Creek, Sandy, and we have the Grayson Reservoir. We just have many, many things that would attract people to come to our territory. And most of all, it's the people. The people of Carter County, they're exceptionally.
Okay. What can you tell us about the caves?
Carter Caves. Well, Carter Caves State Lodge, they have, oh goodness, they have swimming pool and they have horseback riding. They have a pretty nice sized golf course. All kinds of recreation. There's a lake there, fishing, swimming. They have a beach, and of course, like I said before, they have 2 swimming pools, and the park, the whole park itself is just a beauty wonderland to walk, hike, and so forth. They have cabins, and besides the main lodge, which I would say consists of probably 30 rooms.
Okay.
They have a main dining hall, and there's lots of things goes off over at Carter Caves all the time. It attracts different organizations.
Sandy Hook, the county seat of Elliott County. Elliott County population is 6,726. Area square miles, 234. Rank, 91st. Elliott County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Elliott County Courthouse, which is located in Sandy Hook, Kentucky. With me today we have a retired history teacher, Emery Horton. Mr. Horton, what can you tell us about the history of Elliott County?
Elliott County, Kentucky was 114th county, was created by an act of the Kentucky General Assembly in January 1869. The act was approved by Governor John W. Stevenson on January the 26th, 1869. On April the 1st, 1869, it actually became a county, having been created from portions of Morgan, Carter, and Lawrence counties. When the new county was being created, each of the contributory counties had a representative or spokesman present. Lawrence County was represented by J.M. Rice, a lawyer from Louisiana. Carter and Boyd counties were represented by J.H. Eastham, a farmer from Catlettsburg. And Morgan County was represented by West Liberty lawyer J.W. Kendall. Elliott County was named for a member of the original Elliott family. However, there is some disagreement over which member of the family the name came. Records show that the honor went to Captain John M. Elliott. But direct descendants of the family contend that it was actually named in honor of John L. Elliott. Now that the county had been created and named, a county seat had to be chosen. Two settlements, Martinsburg and Newfoundland, were vying for this honor. Martinsburg, or Sandy Hook, was chosen due perhaps to the influence and generous offer by James K. Hunter, considered to be a man of considerable wealth and influence. That being the history of the beginning then of Elliott County.
Okay. How did the town get the name Sandy Hook? Do you know?
The place is built on a knoll-like position that the river makes a form like a hook, and therefore it got its name Sandy Hook.
Okay, when you say the river, which river is that?
It's Little Sandy River.
Okay.
And it forms a hook in its formation. That's why it got its name.
Okay.
Sandy Hook.
What do you know about the courthouse? This courthouse, do you have any information on the courthouses prior to this?
The courthouse, original courthouse, was a brick, and then it was replaced by a stone structure, and then it was destroyed by fire. Now the courthouse now is a modern courthouse, about, I'd say 15 years old.
Okay. Do you know roughly what the population is here in the county?
The population?
Mm-hmm.
It's the 1960 census showed a population of 6,330 for Elliott County. So this compared with 8,713 in 1940 and 7,085 in 1950. So the population is decreasing. We do have part of the Grayson Reservoir is in part of Elliott County. And of course the Elliott County is on the head of the Little Sandy River. And so it's really not much water here for, in the industry, something like that. But of course the reservoir could be increased, and there would be plentiful water.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think would be important to share with us from a historical standpoint?
It was, and during the Civil War, the John Morgan came through this area, and we do have some people who were buried here, these men that lost their lives during the Civil War. And it was kind of divided because some of the people from Virginia were Southerners, and some of them from the North were seen as Unionists, and therefore it was kind of a center for a struggle then of the conflict.
Flemingsburg, the county seat of Fleming County. Fleming County population, 12,433. Area square miles, 351. Rank, 45th. Fleming County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
I'm Karen Prater.
Bill Owens, Fleming County Judge.
Karen, what do you do here with the county?
I work with the old records, do genealogical research, and take care of those valuable records.
And those records are used by whom?
They're used by me to do the research. They're used by outsiders to come and work on their families.
For family backgrounds, I guess people trace the history of their families?
Right.
Let me ask you this. How did Fleming County get its name? Do you know?
It was named in honor of Colonel John Fleming, a native of Virginia.
What about the city itself here, Flemingsburg? How did it get its name?
Same way, it was established as a town in 1796, and we became a county in 1798.
Do you know how the county was devised? Was it broken off of other counties, or how it came about?
We came from Mason County.
So it was originally part of Mason County then?
That is correct.
Okay. Anything else about the history of the county that you can tell us that you might have knowledge of?
Well, we had 3 stations here: Fleming Station, Cassidy Station, and Stockton Station. We have 3 covered bridges left. One is only in use today. We had a 4th one, and it was burned in 1981. We have a lot of beautiful old homes.
Any rivers or lakes here in the county?
We've got Fox Valley Lake. It's a recreational lake out on the Moorhead Road. Lincoln River comes through Fleming County, furnishes the western end with the water supply that in the western part of the county. And that's about it.
Any other historical figures that came through the county at all that you can recall? Famous politicians or political figures that visited the county or have come from the county? Any former governors or anything like that?
Well, Simon Kenton was here. We've got original deeds with his signature on them. He was involved in court cases here.
Is that right? Well, that's interesting. You know, I graduated from Simon Kenton High School down in Kenton County, of course, which was named after Simon Kenton. So that's interesting to know. And you actually have some of the old deeds where he had signed them.
Yes. Well, I might add that the old courthouse sat at the very spot that this one is. It was built in 1829, and they tore it down in around 1950 and erected this new courthouse.
The old courthouse, was there one before that one, or was that the original?
Well, there was even a log one prior to that.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Transportation matters, Judge. Are your highways adequate to get to the county seat here? Are there problems with transportation?
We've done a lot of improvement on the roads, and we're in Kentucky 11's in the 6-year plan to widen it from Fleming County to Maysville, which will help a whole lot when they get the road in from northern Kentucky to Ashland. That's also in the 6-year plan. When we get the Maysville Road widened, will give us more access into Industrial Park and into Fleming County.
That double-A highway is going to be important to this whole region of the state, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It'll help all the counties up and down the river and plumb into Ashland and Lewis County and everywhere. It'll be a great access to all communities around here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you in Flemingsburg and Fleming County today and visiting with you here at the courthouse and the courthouse square.
John F. Day, 1913-1982. A native of Fleming County, this prize-winning journalist began his career with the Lexington Leader, later worked with Washington Bureau of Louisville Courier-Journal, Director and Vice President of CBS News, 1955 to 61, where he won 2 Emmy Awards. Wrote Bloody Ground, 1941, on Eastern Kentucky. John Day spent his last years in England publishing a weekly newspaper.
Prestonsburg, the county seat of Floyd County. Floyd County population, 50,825. Area square miles, 393. Rank, 34th. Floyd County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Floyd County Courthouse, which is located in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. To my right, we have Dr. Henry Campbell, who is the president of the Prestonsburg Community College. Dr. Campbell, what can you tell us about Floyd County?
Well, Floyd County has, of course, a made history. At one time, all of Eastern Kentucky almost was a part of Floyd County, and then, of course, when they divided the counties, they made Pike and Martin and most of the others either out of Floyd or out of composites of Pike, Floyd, and Johnson and some of the other counties. So they all have a unique history that ties together. My family has lived in this area since I don't even know when myself, back in the 1800s. They lived in Pike County and Floyd County, and so I could go back a long way. I went to school in the county, graduated from high school here at Wheelwright High School in '43, served Uncle Sam, came back, and found that the area has changed tremendously. When I was a young man at Wheelwright High School, about the only opportunity for higher education was the two-year colleges at Caney, which is now Alice Lloyd, and of course the two-year college at Pikeville, and the Mayo Vocational School. Now, of course, we're very fortunate. We have four-year institutions at Alice Lloyd and a four-year institution at Pikeville, both of them independent. We still have Mayo Vocational School, which is much expanded over the 30s when I was a boy. And also we have, of course, my own institution, Prestonsburg Community College, which is a unit of the University of Kentucky. So the young man or woman today has a much better chance of getting an education and being able to stay here in the mountains to get the major portion of it without having to go away, which makes it a possibility that didn't exist in my day.
Okay. Because in a lot of counties that we've been in visiting, one of their major problems is that the children leave home and they go to colleges away from their counties, and usually they don't return because there are no jobs available. What's the situation in Floyd County as far as employment goes?
Well, there's an opportunity for a lot of young people to come back. If you look, about approximately 30 young men and women have graduated from med school. Some of them are back in the area practicing here. We have lawyers, teachers, dentists, optometrists, veterinarians, practically everything you can mention in the professional line, who started at Prestonsburg Community College and finished elsewhere and came back. We also have our own nursing staff. When I came to Prestonsburg in 1964, we had a hospital out here with 3 physicians and 1 diploma nurse. Since that time, of course, you know all the health facilities that have sprung up throughout the valley, and it's been helped because of the fact that we can train our own young people, and they stay here in the area to practice nursing. And they don't go away, so we have doctors, clinics, what have you, that are now in the area that didn't exist here even in the 70s, in the early 70s. It started when we started the college nursing program.
Great. Do you know what the population of the county is, a rough idea?
Oh, roughly 59, 60,000 people.
It's a pretty big
county. Our total population for the 5 county area approximates 190,000 people, 93, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. Something we're trying to do for each county is try to promote some tourism. Now, I know what's here, but a lot of people may not know what's in your county to come and see.
Well, there's a lot of things. We have Hillbilly Days in Pike County. We have Apple Day in Johnson County. Here we have our Red, White, and Blue Day here in the county, Jenny Wiley Day. But we have something even better. We have the state park here. We have a brand new holiday in here, and we have the Jenny Wiley Drama Association, which operates over in Jenny Wiley State Park. It's one of the outstanding outdoor attractions in the United States. It's one of the oldest outdoor dramas in the United States, and we perform 3 to 5 plays every summer and have a tremendous audience, and we're now operating with approximately a $200,000 budget every year. It attracts a tremendous number of tourists, and it presents culture to our area that couldn't be here otherwise.
Great. Let me ask you one question. Who was Jenny Wiley?
Jenny Wiley was a young woman who came to the area and at one time lived at Harmon Station. She was abducted by the Indians and went through all kinds of turmoil, had all of her children killed, and finally got back to her husband after she escaped from the Indians and raised a second family and lived happily ever after. And I'm related to her.
Oh, great. Could you tell us a little more about the productions of the Jenny Wiley story?
Yes, we had the play written in 1970 by a faculty member at Prestonsburg Community College, Jeannie Jerams. And Jeannie wrote the original play, and we produced it for 2 years, and then we had a revival in 1972 that was written by Mitch Douglas. And then this year, because of the fact that the music was a little modern for Jenny Wiley, we had the play again rewritten, and it will be produced this summer. It will be the first production of it, and it's written with more of the ballad type of music in it, a lot of the old Burl Ives tunes and that sort of thing. and we're anticipating that we're going to have a substantial group of people come to see it this summer. We had 26,000 last year. We think we'll have about 32 to 33,000 this year.
Great, thank you. Ballpark figure on the courthouse here.
Well, the old courthouse has been here a long, long time. I don't remember exactly when, but about 20 years ago they built the new courthouse, and it looks a lot different than the old one.
Was the old one taken down because of fire or just because of its age?
It was taken down because it was simply antiquated and dilapidated and about to fall down. It needed a modern jail, and that certainly didn't have a modern jail.
So it was right here on this
lot? It was right here where the parking lot is now.
Okay. Are there any political figures that you can think of that may have come through here, historical figures that have tramped on these grounds?
Well, obviously, Governor Burt Combs is a very staunch political figure. A.J. May certainly was one of the prominent political figures of the 40s, the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
And the folks of this area not only should be proud of Burt T. Combs, but they also should be proud of Dr. Campbell, who's dedicated a great part of his life to educating young people. And it's a pleasure for us to be here in the county with him, that county being Floyd.
Thank you, John, for those kind words.
Greenup is the county seat of Greenup County. Greenup County population, 38,236. Area square miles, 347. Rank, 47th. Greenup County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
Behind us we have the Greenup County Courthouse, which is located in Greenup, Kentucky. With me today we have two local residents as well as public servants for the county. Would you both introduce yourself, please, and what you do here?
I'm Susan Fife, and I work for Judge Claxon as the secretary.
Okay.
I am James Claxon, County Judge Executive of Greenup County.
Okay. Judge, what can you tell us about the formation of the county?
Greenup County was named after Christopher Greenup, who was governor in 1804 to 1808. He served as an officer in the American Revolution in 1783.
Okay. What about some historical figures from that era?
Greenup County was formed from the Mason County in 1804, and the town fathers, the vital leaders of Greenup County, were Thomas Waring, Stratton, Jess Boone, son of Daniel Boone, James Hood, and in the Hood home they organized the first organized court and the quarter session of the circuit court. And then they was also active in planting roads in Greenup County, and started having the court in 1804, 1806.
Okay. Jesse Boone lived here, and he was the son of the other Mr. Boone. Was there any documentation of Daniel Boone staying here at any given time?
According to the old records, which the book was destroyed in 1937 in the flood, Jess Boone owned land in Greenup County, and also Daniel Boone. But the book was destroyed in the flood in 1937, and we have nothing to record on it at this time.
Okay. I also understand that Simon Kenton, who was not from here, also owned some property. Is that right?
Simon Kenton owned property. There is records in the court house and the clerk's office, which I saw, where he did own land on Tigers Creek in Greenup County.
Okay. What can you tell us about the courthouse, the age of this one, and the courthouses that might have existed before this?
The first courthouse was built of logs in 1807, and it stood until they started to build the new brick courthouse, and it was from 1811 to 1816, and it was in use for 123 years up till the flood in 1937. Then it was torn down, and the courthouse as today was built in 1939.
Okay. Do you know what the general population of the county is?
It's almost 40,000, 39,000 and some.
Okay. What are the major industries in the county?
We have part of Armco Steel, the CSX railroad system, which is one of the biggest private-owned railroad yards in the United States. We have DuPont brickyards. We have Greenbow Lake State Park, which is a nice park with 200 and some acres of water as the lake. We have this is the home of Jess Stewart, and he wrote 100 and some books while in his lifetime.
What can you tell us about Andrew Hood?
Andrew Hood played a vital part in the starting of Greenup County, the court systems, the road systems, and he is a great-grandfather of mine.
Susan, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, as the judge's secretary, we are involved with the county's payroll, and we work closely with the road department on work orders, getting them over to the road department from, the county people that call in that have road problems. And we're involved with our insurance, handling our county's insurance and workman's comp, and just all the reporting that goes along with the county's payroll.
Okay. Judge, tell us about some other attractions you've got in the county that are historically.
We have several iron furnaces in this area. Some of them are still standing. We have one on Route 2 on Raccoon. We have one at Greenbow Lake State Park. We have one on that's carved out of the base of it is carved out of a rock. That's at Laurel at Old Town. We have one on Brushy, but we have several furnaces in this county yet standing. We have 2 covered bridges in this county. The Old Town covered bridge was erected in 1881, and we have on Little Sandy River, and also we have the Bennis Mill bridge on Tiger Creek in Greenup County. It's the longest one-span bridge, I think, in the state of Kentucky. I believe that.
Great. What about hunting and fishing?
And we have the record bass caught at Greenbow Lake State Park approximately 10, 12 years ago. We have Tiger Creek, which has muskie. Fishermen, they do good in Tiger Creek with muskie. We have several streams that does have good fishing, but Greenbow Lake has a wonderful place to fish, plenty of fish. And the hunting is good in Greenup County. Turkey season is in now. We have several turkeys in Greenup County. We have a tremendous amount of deer in Greenup County, but I will tell this, I shouldn't, but I deer hunted when the gun season was in this past fall, and I didn't get a deer, but about 4 days later I got a 6-point buck with my truck, and the front end of it, you can look at it and see it's still tore up.
Judge, can you tell us a little bit about your interests, special interests?
Well, my hobby is collecting arrowheads. I started when I was 6 years old, and I've accumulated about 800 arrowheads in that length of time, and approximately 600 Indian beads, some pipes.
And this is all within Greenup County?
That's right. It's in most of it all is from Greenup County. We have burial grounds in Greenup County. Mounds, we have the burial grounds, and which there is still arrowheads being found yet.
And you had said earlier that you just found some beads recently again.
Recently I found 7 beads and 2 or 3 arrowheads. I sneak off every now and then when I get a chance, and then go arrowhead hunting.
Great. Well, thank you both very much for participating with us in our project.
Paintsville, the county seat of Johnson County. Johnson County population, 25,710. Area square miles, 264. Rank 77th. Johnson County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
My name is Bob Marsh. I'm the county planner and the county surveyor.
Okay.
My name is Sherry Lyons, and I'm the county financial officer.
Okay. Before we get into any history, Sherry, can you tell us what your role is?
Oh, well, I have to present all the claims to the court. I have to keep a set of books for the judge, do a lot of his legwork, keep the court happy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Marsh, what can you tell us about the formation of the county?
It was formed in 1843 by the act of the state legislature as a part originally of Floyd County. Floyd County, as you probably know, at one point occupied most of what is now eastern Kentucky. And then bit by bit it was chipped off to form other counties. Johnson County was one of those, formed in 1843. It was named for Richard Johnson. Again, I'm sure you're aware, was a vice president of the United States and a very colorful hero of the War of 1812.
What can you tell us about the current courthouse, the age?
The age of this courthouse is relatively young for courthouses in Kentucky and in eastern Kentucky. It was constructed in 1957. The courthouse before that was constructed in approximately 1892, and then there was another one that served from about 1847 until that time. Altogether, considering a small building that was used at the initial founding of the county in 1843, Johnson County has had 4 courthouses.
How did the county seat get its name, Paintsville?
Paintsville was named originally from the name of the creek that runs through the middle of town, Paint Creek, and that creek got its name from the Indian writings and paintings and carvings along the trees on the banks of the creek. When the early settlers came through, to them it appeared as if the trees had been painted. That was Paint Creek. From Paint Creek came Paintsville.
Okay. What is the general population of the county?
The county is approximately 26,000 people. Paintsville is roughly 4,500.
Okay. What is the major industry for your county?
In the past 100 years, I suppose the major industry would have to be identified as coal or coal-related industry. More recently, with the decline in the coal industry in this particular county in the last 30 or 40 years, Johnson County and Paintsville have become more service-oriented. They've become the hub of service industries, service professions, medicine, law, retail merchandising, distribution, transportation. So no major industry in the sense of a large factory, but a major industry in the sense of serving the people in surrounding counties.
If someone were going to come through Johnson County, what would you recommend they see?
Oh, I think there's a lot to see. For one thing, we have the new Paintsville Lake, which was just opened a couple of years ago. Historically, we have the home of coal mining entrepreneur John C.C. Mayo, what we call the Mayo Mansion, which is very, very colorful. We have some very unique architectural buildings. The Mayo Methodist Church, which was built in 1909, is one of the most striking church structures in eastern Kentucky. We, of course, are the home and have the home and birthplace of Loretta Lynn here in Johnson County. These and other natural and historical places, I think, are worth seeing.
Okay. I think we need to ask you what you do in your role, because I don't believe we've interviewed anyone that performs your job.
Well, which of the 2 jobs that I mentioned are you interested in?
The county position.
Okay. I serve as Johnson County Planner, and I also am the elected county surveyor. Let me start with the latter first. The county surveyor is one of those vestigial offices required or mandated by the Kentucky Constitution. It is almost out of vogue. Very little responsibilities are left under state law for the county surveyor, but we do have a function to perform, and it's generally in seeing that public lands are where they ought to be and are not encroached upon. This includes roadways and thoroughfares as well. As county planner, I serve the county judge and the fiscal court in seeking additional ways to advance the economy and services of the county.
Okay, great.
Hindman, the county seat of Knott County. Knott County population, 18,400. Area square miles, 352. Rank, 44th. Knott County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Knott County Courthouse, which is located in Hindman, Kentucky. To my right, we have Mike Mullins, who is a local historian. Mike, what can you tell us about the development of the county?
Well, Knott County was formed in 1884 from the counties of Floyd, Breathitt, Letcher, and I think, and Perry. Well, back in the early days, most of the counties were formed by where you could ride a horse to the farthest edge and be back before sundown. Well, that was a problem because Floyd County and these counties were so big they couldn't do that. So in 1884, a local representative, kind of a nondescript character named Robert Bates, was in the legislature, and he was able to get the county to pass a law forming the county of Knott. It was named after Governor Proctor Knott, and the county seat which you're in today is named after Lieutenant Governor Hindman. But before it became a county, this little town you're in right now was called McPherson, and we're standing at the forks of Troublesome Creek. Left and right fork come together right almost about 100 yards up the road here from us. But those early founders, Bates was the leading one, and then there was a lawyer named Fielding Johnson from over in Car Fork part of the country, and then there was a lawyer named Fitzpatrick. And those three people, Bates and Fitzpatrick and Fielding, are basically giving credit for getting this county started. And the county itself, we just celebrated our centennial a few years back. But Knott is a very rural county. We have about 18,000 people on a good day, I guess, in Knott County. A great part of this county doesn't have any people living in it, up in a quicksand country that's fairly inaccessible. The main economy, of course, is coal. This county has had some very, very interesting history in that educationally you've had some mighty important people to come through this part of the country. Early years you had the founding of the Hyman Settlement School, which I am the director of now. Was the first rural social settlement school in the United States. This institution has drawn people from all over the United States as for its staff and so forth, and it's had some very distinguished students. One that, of course, everyone has heard of and was a national man of stature and so forth in education. That was a former and the late representative Carl D. Perkins. Carl D. Perkins went to the Hyman Settlement School, and give credit for much of what he later on went out into service to the people of this area for getting that basis there at the Hyman Settlement School. But as many people know, he was one of the most powerful congressmen this country has ever known, and he was an interesting man. Carl Perkins was. I remember a story about him. They said he catch a plane down at Lexington. He got on there and he had this bag, and he just had this bag, and these people kind of looked at him. He got on there and he sat down. And he opened it up and he had a big bag of turnips, and he got his pocket knife out and started carving it up and cleaning, and offered everybody on the plane a turnip, raw turnips. But he was a man that he was just what he was. I mean, he never changed for anybody. But and today his son is carrying on that tradition of the Perkins family.
Okay. You talked about coal being the major industry. Are there other industries in this county?
Basically not. Your main employers is the coal industry, and which is severely depressed at this time. I'd say your next major employer is the school system, and then you have some service jobs through the state. But we have a high unemployment rate here in Knott County. I'd say a real unemployment rate somewhere in the 20%, shown by the local statisticians over at CRAD, Kentucky River Area Development District, to be about 16%. That doesn't count those folks who quit looking for work. So one of the major problems of Knott County is that we don't have any diversified economy. We are up and down with coal. Now, where we're standing at here today, I've seen water be up to your knees right here on this street here. We have this little old creek out here called Troublesome. That's how it gets its name, because it gets troublesome, and these businesses usually get flooded once every 4 or 5 years. But the county, we have about 7 consolidated schools, 1 major big high school, not central, and then a smaller high school over in called Lots Creek Community School, or Cordia. And we have a fine higher education institution in Alice Lloyd College, which is about 7 or 8 miles from here. It was founded in 1922 by Mrs. Alice Lloyd, who came here from Boston in 1915 and then moved over into what called Caney Creek, and it used to be called Caney Creek Community College, and then she, when she passed away, they named it after her, and then it was a junior college up until about 6 or 7 years ago, and then now it's a 4-year liberal arts college.
If someone were to ask you what this county needed the most, what would you say it would be?
Number one is jobs. I mean, we need opportunity. People in Knott County are hard-working people. We get up in this part of the country, people like to think that we're a shiftless bunch to a certain extent, but if you go out here and for a job, say like just a Druthers or something, they had like 500 applications for 30 jobs at Druthers, you know, and you have that sort of thing, but it's just jobs. People really desperately needs work, and you know, it used to be that we could get in our car and drive up north and get us a job in the car factories. That's no longer true, and so there's even less opportunity. I guess more and more of our people are heading south now toward the Atlanta area and so places like that. But the boom and bust cycle of coal has left Knott County. I mean, you look at this main street here, just like on several of the little counties that you have traveled to, you see these main streets dying, you know, as they move the small malls out on the outskirts and so forth. But there needs to be a revitalization. There needs to be some venture capital put into eastern Kentucky, and we need to have a little bit of thinking in terms of not everything going to central Kentucky, but to the far eastern part of Kentucky and the western part of Kentucky. We've been kind of left out. I think tourism can bring in some money. I've had some ideals about here in Knott County. We have just a tremendous heritage here. I think that we have the Car Fork Lake is about 12 miles from here. And we want to see a lodge built there. But you know, I think we build on what we have here. I look at the Forks of Troublesome Creek, its innate beauty and so forth of this area. And I think with the right type of capital and the right type of imagination, I can take this town right here and make and probably fix all these storefronts up. I would like to see this place be something along the line of a frontier sort of town where we could bring in tourists and so forth. We're on the main drag here now with new Route 80, and you know, I just think there has to be some imagination put into this area.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much.
Okay.
Louisa, the county seat of Lawrence County. Lawrence County population 14,714. Area square miles 420. Rank 29th. Lawrence County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
To my right, we have Laban Eugene Wallace, Jr., who's a local historian. Mr. Wallace, what can you tell us about Lawrence County, how it got formed?
Well, actually, Lawrence County was formed in 1821, and it was by an act of Congress. And actually, it was in the month of approximately December when the forming started, but we didn't have any lawful acts there done until about January, February of the next year. So most of the time we refer to it as 1822. Now, Lawrence County was formed from the county of Greenup and Floyd, and the county line at that time run up Madison Street, which is the one that connects with the bridge. Mm-hmm. And It remained that way for several years until the county of Johnson was formed from part of Lawrence, part of Martin, part of Boyd, part of Elliott and Carter came out of Lawrence County. Well, Lawrence County covers 425 square miles, and it's seated about at the center of the forks of Levice, Tug, and Big Sandy rivers. And there's approximately at this time about 272,000 acres. County seat Louisa, and Louisa was named from the first girl that was born in the city. The first mapping was done about 1823. At that time there wasn't sufficient lots laid off to make it a town, and then they had to come back and make 100 lots or more to make the city of Louisa as a regular city according to the law. At the time that Lawrence County was formed, we had no courthouse, and all of the people here met in the house of Andrew Johnson's. They had at that time 7 magistrates, our justice of peace they were called in those days, and these justices did all of the lawmaking at that time, and they directed the laying off of the school districts and the voting precincts. At the time of the first schooling in Lawrence County, there was 9 school districts, and they were laid off accordingly and noted in our first order book of Lawrence County. And I might say too that the same time that the county was formed, there was appointed a sheriff for Lawrence County, and there's also the road surveyors, which they called them, that worked in these different areas, and they were given particular districts to work in. For instance, one run from maybe the mouth of Lick Creek to the mouth of George's Creek, and this man was named for that precinct and was called to direct the road building. The road building in those days were 9 feet of roadway and cuts and 12 feet in the fill areas. We might say that the first building of any of the court building was built around 1823, and it was directed by the justices at that time. Now we had here, of course, since Louisa lies at the mouth of Tug and Levice Fork, we had a ferry that ferried across the river. And at that time, part of Fort Gay, which is now Fort Gay, was part of this community, and one of the large landowners of that time was Frederick Moore. Frederick Moore came into Lawrence County and into the portion of Wayne which he lived. We call it the Hammond Bottom now, below Fort Gay, was in 1815. And Frederick owned quite a bit of the area, which is the town of Louisa. He also donated a portion of the land which is now the courthouse now stands on. The first courthouse was built about 1824, and it was built mostly a log, and the best of my knowledge it was standing similar to where it is at the present time. This courthouse remained there until 1881, at which time Judge J.J. Jordan rebuilt the courthouse in Louisa, and then they built it out of brick. And that courthouse remained intact until about 1963, which we were crowded for office space and so on, and the present judge at that time got a contract to rebuild that courthouse, and it was enlarged and of course modernized with the latest in air conditioning. It was enlarged so that both clerks' offices were expanded to take care of the overloaded works of their offices, and also add extra room for the court and their judges. At the early time of the county school system, at one time Lawrence County had over 105 schools throughout the county. Most of them were one-room schoolhouses, and they operated that way for quite a few years. During the WPA days in the 30s, we had several consolidated schools built to help take care and to give the students a little more leave for education, whereas in a one-room school there was not enough students at times to give a child a good education. Therefore they were consolidated, and we had one at Blaine, one school at Fallsburg, one at Webbville, and one at Clifford, one at Meads Branch, Lomansville, and then Louisa. And finally, in later years, most of those consolidated schools were give up, and we consolidated our high schools. So at this present time we have only one main high school, and it's Lawrence County High School, and the other schools have been given up. One of the things that we have at the present time that is a great interest to most of the Lawrence Countyans is our Yatesville Dam. We've been trying for several years to get something done on, and it's been a long process. In fact, I have a bulletin at my home right at the present time that was edited in 1931, and at this bulletin it gave the different dams in this area here that was to be looked into and built, and some of those dams were the Burnell locks. Of course, the Burnell locks was already in there long before this, but they had talked about enlarging them. All right, next we have the Yatesville Dam, which we're in the process now of trying to get the Yatesville Dam built. This dam is actually figured to be more or less a recreational dam instead of flood control, and then it seems as though that the federal government has sort of drug their feet on it. However, the Pant Creek Dam is listed in this bulletin, and it's been built. The Hayside Dam that lies in the southern edge of Pike County and in the edge of Virginia has been built for some time, and the dam in Floyd County, the Jenny Wally. So actually, about the only thing that's remaining in that old report is the Yatesville Dam, which we now are expecting to have completed around 1993. With this dam, it will give the adjoining counties and area a real fine playground, and we're trying to get the state's aid in helping us on the recreational part of it at the present time. The certain phases are already being dealt with. They're building on the dam itself at the present time, and they've already built the drainage tunnel, and we expect to get a lot of the clearing done within this year. That's about all I could say about the Yatesville Dam at the present time.
Okay. What's the population of the town itself?
Well, it's somewhere around 2,000. Like I say, now the first streets was built here in Louisa was back in, that is, paved streets, was back in around 1920, 1 and 2.
Whitesburg, the county seat of Letcher County. Letcher County population, 30,212. Area square miles, 339. Rank 52. Letcher County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
To my right, we have Cecil Hensley, and he was going to help us with some information on the county here. Cecil, when did the county form?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, June, it was 1842. And I think I'm right in saying that it was originally tied to or affiliated with Knott County, and probably was a break-off from Kentucky County or part of Kentucky County when Kentucky County was one of the Virginia counties.
Okay. How did the town get the name Whitesburg? Do you know?
There was once, as I understand it, a Senator John White, and it was named in his honor.
Okay.
And Whitesburg also was started around the salt wells, which, as I understand, for the extraction of salt, which was vitally important in those days. And I think if you will study, many of the towns sprang up for maybe the same purpose, was the extraction of salt is one of the first mineral developments, I guess, in the county. Then the timber followed.
Okay. Do you know how old this courthouse is?
This courthouse, I think, was built in 1964, and as you can well see, I suppose, in the picture you will take, you can get an idea of the type of construction of which it is, and it was, I think, during the reign of John Sherman Cooper, and probably not soon after the death of John F. Kennedy, and I guess it was one of Mr. Kennedy's programs of rejuvenating the economy.
Okay. What is the major industry in this county now?
Coal mining, I think, is the major industry of the county. Of course, there's a limited amount of logging, timber production, 90% of our land, by and large, is mountain land and probably is or should be producing timber, and only 10% of the sale of the wood products from the land is coming from wood. And any time that 90% of your productive capacity is producing 10% of your income, probably there is an imbalance. However, I know this isn't bluegrass land, but I believe this 10% productive capacity out of 90% of the productive potential is too low. Pine Mountain Fault, which is a geological phenomenon, in my opinion, in no small proportions. We have Lily Cornet Woods, the Little Shepherd Trail, and we have many other things. The mountains are a thing of beauty, and I think we need to protect them and regard them as a scenic and saleable product. Also, I think while we develop our tourism and our natural resources, we need to develop our wildlife potential. And I'm not referring to the way some of us carry on in our day-to-day conduct, but I would like to talk about the potential of the wild animals, the beasts of the field that we need to study. We have a wildlife habitat here. We could develop some fishing, some hunting areas, I'm sure, and I do not presume to take the bailiwick of the game people away, because I think they would agree with me, but we need to develop it, and we need to develop our forestry potential too. We need to do away with these forest fires as much as possible and take a great deal of things, and I'm not saying a great deal isn't being done, but I hope that as we go through, that the general populace will realize that we need involved participants more so than we need perfect spectators.
I'm Ben B. Taylor, Sheriff of Letcher County.
Thank you. What can you tell us about the formation of Letcher County?
Letcher County was formed from 3 other counties in 1842. Most of Letcher County was at that time in what is now Perry County, but a portion of Letcher County was taken from Harlan County and Pike County also. And Letcher County received its name from in honor of the then sitting governor, William P. Letcher.
What can you tell us about the courthouse, the age of this one and ones prior to this?
The present courthouse was completed in 1965. The ones prior to that, the first one was completed in 1844, and which was a log building. And around 1898 or 99, the old former courthouse, the masonry building, was built of brick made on the site or near the site.
Okay. What is the population of this county?
Population's present time, the last one we had taken was 28,300 people.
Okay. What's the major industries?
Coal.
Okay. Is there a high unemployment rate in your county, or do you feel that?
At the present time, I think we have in the neighborhood of about 23% unemployment in this county. Of course, that's according to the report that we have from the Social Security Office. I feel like that the employment of this county is greater than that. I'd say in the neighborhood of 33 or 34%.
Something we've been trying to do is to promote tourism for each county to help bring in some monies. What would be the kinds of things you would suggest people coming through Letcher County to stop and see?
Well, we got, I think, Mr. Sexton go along with, we got one of the most beautiful areas for tourism to come in and visit. We got the Piney Mountains up here. We got the caves up there. We've got the head of the Kentucky River, and we've got a lot of historical sites in this county. Maybe if they haven't had a chance to visit Letcher County in the Whitesburg area, this is one of the most beautiful scenery in the mountains in the fall of the year or in the spring of the year. It's beautiful back on top of one of our big mountains. I think the elevation is about 2,800 feet above sea level. And in the morning, you can be up over the clouds, and it's just beautiful in spring of the year or in the fall of the year.